Hey folks, how's it going? Back from the holidays now, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the latest installment of Pulling Out Your Hair. I'd like to give a little warning to some of our overly sensitive viewers that might be offended by any mention of religiosity. Just sit there, watch the video, and don't worry, we'll tie it all into the Constitution by the end. Well, recently I was sitting there in church, and the preacher, just before the holidays, was talking about what they were doing before or for the holidays as far as donations for the needy, especially toys. And what you could do is go up to the front of the church where they had these angels stuck on a board. On the back of the angels there was a toy written there. So you would go ahead and purchase that toy, bring it back to the church, and donate it to a needy child. Now the priest noted that already a lot of the angels had been taken. But don't worry, if they ran out, what he wanted you to do was go out and purchase Walmart gift cards in $10 increments. As I sat there and thought about that, I realized that this is the exact way that our founders intended us to take care of the less fortunate. Progressives and statists often talk about the necessity of a safety net. You know, it sounds so noble in their cries for the poor, but in actuality, what they're promoting is a practice that's simply unconstitutional. They would have you believe that the General Welfare Clause of the Constitution justifies this.
The General Welfare Clause is the first part of Article 1, Section 8, which reads, "The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debt and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States."
See, this clause does not provide for the confiscation of private funds, i.e. property, to provide essentials to the poor, or for that matter, any citizen. Think welfare, Social Security, food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, all unconstitutional. Now we're even talking about universal insurance. I even heard a public service announcement the other day for a program that provides cell phones. But of course, who am I to make such statements, right? Alright, let's check out the statements of our founding fathers. You know, the folks that wrote the Constitution.
James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, wrote, "If Congress can do whatever in their discretion can be done by money, and will promote the general welfare, the government is no longer a limited one possessing enumerated powers, but an indefinite one subject to particular exceptions."
Pretty on point, right? I mean, he was saying that just because Congress can levy taxes doesn't mean they can do anything for the people that they so choose under the guise of the General Welfare Clause. Otherwise, what was intended to be a limited government would ultimately become an unlimited government. How about Thomas Jefferson? He wrote,
"Congress has not unlimited power to provide for the general welfare, but only those specifically enumerated."
See, the General Welfare Clause was never intended to provide such things as food subsidies, living expenses, retirement funds, health care, or yes, believe it or not, even cell phones. It was not meant to be a means of charity.
The father of the Constitution, James Madison, said it himself during a speech to the House of Representatives during the debate over providing financial relief to French refugees. "Charity is no part of the legislative duty of the government. I cannot undertake to lay my finger on the article of the Constitution which granted a right to Congress of expending on objects of benevolence the money of their constituents."
This isn't someone's interpretation of the Constitution. This is reading about exactly what the founders had intended. There are many more of these quotes from the founding fathers that refer specifically to the application of the General Welfare Clause. You can check them out. Look at source 2. See, it wasn't that the founding fathers were some greedy, heartless prudes. On the contrary, they had a keen understanding of human nature. They knew that charity through the government would lead down a very slippery slope, which it clearly has. I mean, look at all the unsustainable social programs that have been created by our federal government. Programs that not only are unconstitutional, but are bankrupting our country. People talk about the national debt as somewhere around $12 trillion.
Now, I'm sure you've seen something like this before. If not, Check it out at Source 3. This number is what is reported as the national debt, somewhere around $12 trillion. But the real number is down here in the bottom right-hand corner. See, when you include Social Security and Medicare, you're talking about a debt of nearly $107 trillion, which works out to be around $346,557 per citizen, not per family, per citizen.
I've heard arguments from secular folks trying to cherry pick the teachings of Jesus and use it to show conservatives as hypocrites. In fact, in putting together this post, I stumbled across a website called Jesus is a Liberal.
They argue that Jesus' philosophy, based in compassion, equality, inclusion, forgiveness, tolerance, peace, and most importantly, love, is 100% liberal.
Interesting thought. The thing about this that bugs me, aside from the fact that liberalism or progressivism in this country is synonymous with the killing of unborn babies, is that they identify themselves as being for compassion, equality, forgiveness, tolerance, peace, and love, because they support a central government mandating these principles. Now, if these principles were really the goals of government, that would be great. You know, it would also be really cool if I could have a pet unicorn and slide down a rainbow into a pot of gold. But you see, we deal in reality here. Government can't mandate this stuff. It is, get this, an individual choice. Individualism. Wow! That brings us right back to the Constitution, with it assigning the power and the responsibility to the individual. On top of that, when you consider that every time there is some poll or survey documenting who gives what to charity, the results are overwhelming.
Arthur C. Brooks, a professor at Syracuse University, published a book in 2007 based on his research called Who Really Cares? The Surprising Truth About Compassionate Conservatism. Among his findings are that, although liberal families' incomes average 6% higher than those of conservative families, conservative-headed households give on average 30% more to charity than the average liberal-headed household. Residents of the states that voted for John Kerry in 2004 gave smaller percentages of their income to charity than did residents of states that voted for George Bush. People who reject the idea that government has a responsibility to reduce income inequality give an average of 4 times more than people who accept that proposition.
Liberal progressives would have government confiscate wealth from citizens, i.e. steal, to redistribute to other citizens. Now, how does that line up with the teachings of Jesus again? So, back to the gift card idea and my original point. This is the way that our founding fathers had intended to take care of the needy. And needy is an important term here. We aren't talking about the lazy, we're talking about the needy. Some people might see this as a left versus right argument, or a liberal versus conservative debate, but it's not. We're talking about right and wrong, what works and what doesn't work. The inefficiencies of huge bureaucracies are so well documented that I'm not even going to waste my time and yours trying to lay it out here. It is self-evident. I shudder to think of the administrative costs involved in providing a $10 Walmart gift card to a needy person via the federal government. That is, assuming that the government isn't corrupt and the mayor doesn't steal the gift card before they're distributed. On top of the pure financial inefficiencies involved, the federal government doesn't have the ability to exercise any sort of discretion. Their policies on redistribution of wealth must be absolute, black and white. No Harry Reid, I'm not talking skin color here. This allows for people to easily cheat the system. Local charities have much more control over who is getting these charitable donations. They can truly make sure the money is going to those who really need it. And that's why our founders left this type of charity to local organizations, not a bloated, bureaucratic central government. Well, that's it for now. I hope you had a great holiday. and that you will have a very happy new year. Thanks for listening. Now let's spread the word.